So it's 1941 when World War II starts.
As far as our good friends, the Americans, are concerned, it's shortly after Pearl Harbor that they join, isn't it? I will say this for one, right? In the opening titles of the Pacific, when they say, like, you know, it nearly looked like they were going to go for Australia, I had no idea that Australia had anywhere near any involvement in the whole thing.
Well, they would have been. Were they part of the Commonwealth at that point? Yeah, they would have been.
I've no idea. But there is... Well, here we go. There's an episode of the Pacific, Part 3, called Melbourne. So I'm guessing they go to Australia. Ooh. Oh, mind you, it looks like it's a party episode. Like, they just go there for a bit of a break. Which, I think, after shooting a lot of people, you probably need to do.
Yeah. So is it worth prefacing this that we're both not huge, big
We're not big
fans
war
of...
boys, are we?
No.
Like, war stuff generally, I'm a bit like, it just doesn't... Military stuff doesn't grab me that much. Unless we're talking about, like, British squaddies fighting werewolves in the Scottish Highlands. Then I'm very much involved.
Yeah, that is a very specific niche of it didn't happen.
One film. Yeah, I mean, Band of Brothers has always been one of the ones that, like, it was one of the early HBO, like, big shows, wasn't it? So that's always been on my list of, like, I really should watch this at some point.
It's one of those ones that does, even, like, it just feels like one of those ones that everyone has seen, or... yeah, it's one of those ones that you feel like you should have seen it, yeah.
If you've not seen it, your dad's seen it. That's what Band of Brothers is.
That's the thing. So I remember for the longest time we have, my dad has the box set of it.
Mm.
So I'm guessing he must have watched it when it came out.
I mean,
but I remember being like, oh yeah, cool. One day I'll watch that. And
what one's enough?
And today's well, a couple of days ago was the day. After thinking that for about 20 years. Because that's the thing, this isn't a new show. It's, what, 23 years old?
Yeah.
God, it's almost as old as Attack of the Clones. No, it is older than Attack of the Clones.
Yeah.
Almost as old as Phantom Menace, which turns 25 this year.
Yeah, that is weird. That is an odd one.
Yeah. Our childhood was 25 years ago.
I don't really know which of these to start with, and I actually wonder if we're just going to find it slightly easier to sort of conflate the two, because they are companion pieces, aren't they? And as you pointed out just before we started, that there's another miniseries that's just started or is currently airing. Or, well, actually, hang on. 5 months ago was currently airing.
Yeah.
And that's Masters of the Air, isn't it? So it's kind of like they open the same anyway, I suppose. They open with interviews of people who were actually involved in the operations that are depicted.
Because from what I understand, these are based on accounts of people who were there.
Yeah.
So they're not entirely fictional. I imagine there may be cut down to be a little to the good bits, like the whole pilot of training. But that's the thing. I don't know if watching this, I would say that Band of Brothers has necessarily a good pilot. I mean, mostly because they're dropping all these people, but just
that was awful.
I know.
Have you been sat on that since you watched the show?
I know that just came into my head now.
I don't believe you. I think you came up with that as you were watching it. And
well, it's fine. I've torn that page out of my notebook and burnt the notebook and the pen that I wrote it with. And I'll do something about the brain that thought of it, but not yet.
And I tell you, something that we were just having a very quick chat about is it's very interesting watching this however many years later, because there's a lot of people you recognise in it. Like in the first one alone, I think it's obviously you got David Schwimmer, who I actually pretty quickly forgot about Ross while he was doing that. I kind of could drop it. Occasionally, I would just be like, you know, when they trick him to like cut through the fence and they're sort of.
I think it's whenever that
he looks stupid.
Has like a funny moment, you're like,
that's
oh, you know,
Ross.
he's a comic actor, isn't he?
Yeah. But to be fair to him, I did like when he was being an arsehole. I was like, okay, he does sell that quite well. But yeah, like you see in this episode 1 alone, you get Simon Pegg, Donnie Wahlberg, Stephen Graham showing up.
Damien
Fassbender
Lewis as well.
Showed up as well. Who did you say?
Damien Lewis.
Yeah, well, he's all the way through it, isn't he?
Yeah.
But I mean, just as like the little sort of cameos of people who then go on to do like big things.
Well, yeah, I'm just looking at like the list of people who are in it. It's like Dominic Cooper's in it.
Who else
Jimmy
have we got
Fallon.
that
I don't.
we
Is that
recognise?
the same Jimmy
The
Fallon?
Jimmy Fallon, is it?
Yeah.
Yep. Tom Hardy, Andrew Scott, who's it? Colin Hanks. I mean, yeah.
James McAvoy.
James McAvoy's in it. Simon Fenton. I think is he in Ghosts? No. Okay, I'm thinking of someone else. Yeah. Fucking everybody's in it.
Yeah. I think the weird thing is that a lot of British actors are want to do is to wander off and just play Americans convincingly enough that people forget they're a British actor. But yeah, no, the cast, I think I'm not 100% sure it's quite the same for the Pacific, but where's the cast list? I was just scrolling past all the awards that it won.
What, of recognisable people in the Pacific?
Yeah, I feel like it's not as many.
No.
But I think they've got more.
You got an Oscar winner in there though. You got Rami Malek, John Bernthal was the only other one that I really recognise. I think I've said that. Have I just made it up? Has Rami Malek won an Oscar? I'm sure he has done.
Would it not be for Rhapsody? Was that? I can't remember what the Queen film was called.
Yeah, Bohemian Rhapsody. Yeah, he won Best Actor. Yeah, I didn't just make that up. You know when you say something and then you're like, hang on a minute, that's completely wrong.
Yeah, but I mean, I think, yeah, I don't know. Maybe the Pacific they didn't feel like they could replicate the cast going on to have quite as much success as.
I suppose the whole point, like with Band of Brothers, they were all supposed to be like relatively unknown, weren't they? I suppose because it was like, you know, they're just ordinary chaps going off to war and stuff. So I figure that it would be quite distracting in the Pacific if you then got like more recognisable people. So it kind of makes sense for it to.
Yeah, and I suppose some of these people
Start,
didn't come into their like massive, like big success stories until 10, 15 years after.
Yeah, I mean, well, what John Bernthal at this point is he done The Walking Dead at this point? I think he must have done
2010.
series 1. He must have done because
Yeah.
I think Walking Dead started in 2010, didn't it? 2009, The Walking Dead started.
Yeah, so I guess it's a very HBO thing to do, though, isn't it? To have a cast of relative unknowns and one sort of like one or two big sort of marquee names to go like, look, they're in it.
Yeah.
The one I'm thinking of is Sean Bean in Game of Thrones, but yeah,
But like, so with Band of Brothers, then I think like when you figure, because this is the thing, right? So if you think about the fact that it's 2001. Spielberg's only just done Saving Private Ryan, and you know, when people depict D-Day now, they don't depict D-Day, they depict the beach scene from Saving Private Ryan. And I do find it slightly odd that I know he wasn't like a director or anything, but he wasn't a producer on it. To have him going back and doing a similar scene, obviously we've not seen it yet because the D-Day landings are the
Episode 2.
yeah.
I guess.
So I do find it a bit odd that
Do you think maybe
they
what
don't
happened
show
is
it.
well, no, I was thinking that in Spielberg and I guess Tom Hanks as well, in their research they did for Saving Private Ryan, found all of these like these men talking about their stories and just went like,
Oh, and like, oh, wouldn't
we
it be
should
good
we
to,
should
as
do
well?
something with that.
Yeah,
Like because Saving Private Ryan's like one story, and then Band of Brothers is another, Pacific another set of stories, and then Masters of the Air is going to be another set of stories.
yeah.
So I wonder if they found all of those as part of that research and went, we might not make films out of them, but and also I think to give some of these, what I'm guessing are probably some pretty nasty stories,
yeah.
to do them justice,
right.
it makes sense to do it over a few episodes.
Yeah, that does make an awful lot of sense. But like just seeing them going through their training, like
It looks pretty shit, doesn't it?
it doesn't look like a good time. But I struggle to like, because it doesn't feel like a lot happened, even though obviously an hour plus of TV you sit through and you watch it, but it just doesn't feel like an awful lot goes on.
I think you get, it's a lot more character moments, and I guess setting you up so that you go,
So I suppose so you
have a reason to
shit.
give a shit about some of these characters when they die.
Yeah, because inevitably, like, they will do. And I think that's probably why there's so many faces in it, is because then, you know, you've got a lot of people you can lose in the story. Do you feel any sort of want to carry on watching either of these two at all?
I think Band of Brothers more than the Pacific.
Yeah, I think I'd agree with you, because I think the Pacific is a lot more action heavy in the first episode. And I suppose the first episode of Band of Brothers is very much just like creating a sense of dread, particularly like when at the end of the episode they're all queuing up to get in the planes to go and fly over to Normandy.
Yeah, and I think that's something that's quite, because I think it might be more of a British perspective, but D-Day is a much more familiar setting to be, for it to come up at the start and be like, right, we're preparing for this, and you're like, oh fuck, I know what that is.
Yeah.
Whereas a lot of the stuff that happened, well, I guess in and around the Pacific, it's
Over our
just stuff that I
side of
don't
the world,
really know
it's-
about.
Yeah, it's less than, like I said at the start, I had no idea Australia were anywhere near involved.
Yeah, but then when you think about it, it sort of makes sense that they're part of the Commonwealth and not all that far from Japan.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's weird because that sort of side of the war we don't really learn about. We learn a lot about the European history because
That's where we are.
I could be in Europe in 2 hours if I tried. I wouldn't, but if I tried, I could be.
I've just remembered something about Band of Brothers and Saving Private Ryan. It was... Yeah, it was the same. Yeah, so both of them were shot partly at Hatfield Aerodrome. And that was really not very far away from where I used to live. And my mum was just in the house one day, and she phoned the police because she was like, I've just heard a series of explosions And they went, "Oh yeah, it's nothing to worry about. That's Steven Spielberg. He's making a film over the road." I'm not sure which part of it was actually. It's interesting that they shot parts of Saving Private Ryan there and Band of Brothers, but I guess if you know it works.
Yeah, and I guess if you've got the same like
Those connections,
top
as well.
dog's head in it, like
Yeah.
you're going to do stuff in a similar place. And I mean, to be fair, it's been so long since I've seen Private Ryan that I can't even tell if they're like the shooting looks similar in the and how much carryover there is. Because I don't know if well, it's not necessarily like a spin-off, but yeah, I wonder how much of the stuff they finished Saving Private Ryan with and just went like, all right, we'll just ship that off to HBO. they can use it for this.
Yeah, you can buy it from us. There you go. How about that?
Yeah.
So,
Because I think what I quite liked in the first episode is that with the sort of few time jumps where they move from place to place, is that I can't actually remember his character's name, but Ross's bumbling captain.
Sobel.
Yeah, like I've found quite impressive that they made you sort of go like from the beginning you were like, he's a bit of an arse, but I'd expect someone doing military training to be a bit of an arse. And then seeing that he's going through it, doing that thing that you see like almost a lot of managers do in lots of different companies where they sort of go, oh, if I just take a little bit of credit, then I'll look better.
Yeah.
And to the point that he basically gets promoted out of Easy Company. And it was quite interesting to see that his whole plan of making the best like company in the pirate paratroopers was just almost backfired. But backfired in such a way that it probably saved his life.
Yeah. And is it shortly before that or after that what's Damien Lewis's character? He says, "Fuck you, I want court-martialing."
Oh, it's before he gets promoted out of it.
It's before that. Winters, that's his name, isn't it?
Yeah. Which I thought was quite... I was just like, ooh. But I like that it's not trying to... I suppose it wouldn't do if it's based on people's actual accounts, but it's not trying to sort of hide any like inadequacies in like some of the people that were around at the time.
It's so I think with these ones, it's definitely an appreciation rather than an enjoyment for me of what they did, and like
That's the thing. I think it's an interesting way to learn about things that happened. Though I don't. It's sort of, in a weird way, it being a big HBO production. It really takes the edge off that like these are real things that happen to real people.
Yeah, I mean they'll have taken a bit of license with it.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's sort of that knowing that you can sort of go, oh, well, it's probably not 100% accurate, but it will have to be accurate enough to have been signed off by the families or the people involved.
So that's the thing. Like that's something that I was aware of about Band of Brothers is that at the very start you see a slight interview with someone who you just assume was there, and it turns out that at the end, it's only at the very end that they show you that they were actually in Easy Company, and then gives you their name. So then you're like, oh shit! So that's actually, this guy and that guy. So I don't know if I want to give like 10 hours to this, because I'm like, I'm like, look, I just know it isn't for me, because like war stuff, I just not that interested in that side of things. But like,
Yeah, it's one of those weird things that it doesn't fully register in my brain that this happened like a decade before my dad was born.
oh yeah, that is weird.
Yeah, like the end of the war was 11 years before my dad was born. I'm like, that is...
Oh, that's weird. Because then if you think about like, what was 10 years ago? We met. Well, we'd known each other for a little while, but like 10 years ago, I was about to finish uni. That's really not that far away, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, that's
And because
weird.
we're only what, 70 something years, nearly 80 years away from it.
It's really not that long ago, is it?
Yeah, but that's the thing. But it feels like
It feels like
it feels like a different like time. Well, it was, but it just feels so much further back than like a lifetime.
yeah.
But I think the reason that I'm less interested in watching the Pacific is because it just seems like it's going to be so much worse.
Yeah. There's that horrible bit at the end of the Pacific as well, with there's a soldier that runs out to them and they all start mocking him. I was like, oh, you just don't need to be doing that, do you? That's horrendous. Like, it's bad enough that you're at war and you're killing people, but then just to like do that in his sort of final seconds. Oh, horrible.
Yeah, and then that's the thing. I think even though it will be the language that they use at the time, a lot of that just makes me uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But that, I guess, is a very privileged position to be in, where I'm like, oh, I wish they wouldn't have talked like that. But I think what I did find really interesting is their hype for landing on the beach was very anticlimactic, where they're like, oh fucking hell, oh shit, we're actually going, and then they get to the beach and they're just like, it's just a bunch of lads posted up, like having a bit of
There's no one
having
here.
a bit of a sit about. So I thought the whole of the first episode would have just been them walking around the island, not finding anyone to fight.
Yeah. Isn't that basically what Jarhead is? I've never seen Jarhead, but isn't it about the fact that they're in this war zone and they're not fighting?
Yeah, I think so, but I also haven't seen it.
Ah, okay, never mind.
I think to touch on the thing at the beginning, war stuff, not our thing.
Yeah. It really isn't, but do you know what? It was just one that I was like, well, more than anything, it was just, well, I've got the Blu-rays, so...
Yeah, but I think, yeah, I might watch more of Band of Brothers. I think, because it's got a really good cast.
Yeah, and like there's also other people in it who we are aware of now, but we haven't as yet seen.
Yeah,
yeah,
and I think
them,
the like having it in my head sort of an understanding of like that time, and I've seen more stuff around the fighting in Europe than I have around the fighting in the Pacific.
Yeah,
and the Pacific's very far away, so I'm not that interested.
Yeah, so not quite a recommendation, I don't think, but yeah,
I think
I'm
people
in
who
agreement.
like and are interested in
Have already seen this.
well, yeah, admittedly, we are 23 years too late to me. But I suppose if there are people who haven't seen it and enjoy war
shit, yeah,
war dramas and stuff, then it's really well put together.
yeah,
Like, I have no complaint. And like it looks really good. It's just not an area that we're
massively into, yeah.
But that's the thing. Of the two, I'd probably watch more Band of Brothers, and I might, because I think we're about to have a bit of a time off. So, from doing the podcast, so I won't be watching that much newer stuff. So maybe I can catch up on 20 years of television that I've just not watched.
Yeah, I don't know how much TV I'm going to get to watch, but I imagine there'll be a fair bit, I suppose.
Yeah, but you'll probably want stuff that you can just have on in the background. that you've
Yeah,
already
that's the
seen and
trouble.
understood.
I don't want these prestige dramas while I'm doing a night feed. I don't think.
I reckon Ted Lasso and Gilmore Girls, that'll see you right.
Yeah, Gilmore Girls is a shout. Ted Lasso would be good, but I'd have to sign up to Apple TV again. And, there's nothing else on there I want to watch. So. The next episode you're going to hear from us. I don't know if you know anything about these shows. Do you, Rich? I don't know anything about La Revolution, but I do know stuff about Kingdom. Do you know anything about
I know
them?
that there's a lot of shows called Kingdom.
Yes, but this is specifically...
And I'm guessing that La Revolution is French.
French, I believe. Yeah. So, okay, if I've got this right, there is a very specific factor, like a plot device that each of these shows employs. I might be completely wrong on La Revolution, but I guess we'll see. I've sent you the link to the correct Kingdom, so just don't look up anything about it. Just watch it.
Okay.
And then, yeah, I will say this: I've watched 2 or 3 episodes of Kingdom. I think I watched 2 episodes several years ago, and I rewatched the pilot today. And I don't know why I didn't carry on with the show because I fucking loved it. It's so good.
I can tell you exactly why. It's because you're awful at commitment.
Been married to your wife for nearly 5 years.
Yep. And that kid's going to be 18 eventually.